All right. We're doing great. I am. Okay, turn this down. So I'm doing a test still. Sound looks good. Okay. All right. What's good, family? Children is live. Oh, Neymar, thanks for joining the stream. I appreciate you. You always giving me the chocolate. All right. I really appreciate you coming through. Hello, Nirlana. Thanks for joining the stream. How is Azerbaijan? Yeah, it's a beautiful country. What's the capital for? What's the capital of Azerbaijan? Um, I'm not sure what it is, but it's really beautiful. I've been catching up on your videos, and yeah, it's really beautiful place. It looks cold though. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. It's good afternoon here. 4:38 p.m. here in Melbourne, Australia. Yeah, it's a pretty cold winter's day here. The weekend is going to be cold and raining. So yeah, good to have you here. I am still new to this StreamYard, so I'm trying to test things out. I tried to do something before and it froze my computer moments ago. So I was meant to be on time, but I wasn't able to do that. Yeah, so yeah, my channel is all about my channel is African centered. So if you're here, if you're joining me, you must love Africa. Africa is the mother of all civilizations. Africa is the mother of everyone on earth. If you call yourself a human being, best believe you originated from Africa. So it is, paramount that we, as descendants of, African people, we do what's necessary, to develop Africa, because Africa is our future. Believe it or not, Africa is the future of all humanity. In the coming years. Must I go through the history? I mean, the projections again. History is that humans came out of Africa, and the projections for the future is that by 2100, Africa is going to be half of the globe's population. Every other population group in the world is falling, whereas Africa is rising. The average age of Africans right now is 17 years old, whereas Europe is like 40, 45 years old. The United States like about the same. Everywhere else, I think Europe was 60 years old, but in Africa, 17 years old. So obviously, Africa is the future for our people. So Neymar says only people of color could only appreciate other people of color. It's an unbreakable bond that only we can ultimately relate to. Chocolate power. Boom. Yeah, I mean, it's there's I'll try to find that word. I think it's Ubuntu. Ubuntu. It's a South African word that describes humanity. It's a word that has coined humanity in the essence of humanity, quintessential value of humanity. Is in that word. I think it's Ubuntu, which basically means we are all related. So you see family in everybody else, and that's what it is. So I mean, a lot of people have said that it's only through Africa that justice can come back to this world. So only Africa is going to take us there. Everywhere else is plagued with capitalism and self gratification and greed and and whatnot, and it's not going to take us anywhere. The world is going to collapse. But thank God, Africa's still there, and Africa's rising, and Africa is going to take its or her rightful place on the world stage once again, as they did for hundreds of thousands of years before the common era. So yeah, I mean, you can look at the history. The European domination has only been less than 2,000 years, about 2,500 years, starting from the Greeks. The Germanic people, i.e., the people of the Scandinavians and the Brits and whatnot, didn't really come into history up until 500 BC. So that's really really minute when it comes to the world stage, whereas African people have been you know on this planet for hundreds of thousands of years. You know, so things are going to change, and yeah, we welcome the change. Evolution is everything. Believe it or not, things are changing. Rapidly um, before our eyes, and embrace it. Okay, embrace the new. Okay, there's nothing to fear. Okay, there's nothing to fear. So yeah, as you all know, Africa is a beautiful place. Africans love other people. Um, the hospitality of Africans is can be said that is it could lead to it led to their own demise, whereas they invite foreigners to come in, and then um, you know they get taken advantage of, as in the ancient records, we find out that Egypt allowed some foreigners in called the Hyksos, okay, and they came into Egypt when there was famine. It was famine where they come from, and Egypt let them in, and they turned around and started wanted to rule Egypt. So this they wanted to suppress our ancestors just because we let them in, and we wanted to give them food and shelter and clothing. So they took advantage of our ancestors. Similarly, that led to the slave trade and everything else. But times are changing. Okay, times are changing. You cannot oppress a group of people for too long. So yeah, if you're tuning in again for the first time, my channel is African centered. So I will only be talking about things relating to Africa primarily, and how everything, all the world events, affects Africa. So yeah. Waiting on my mod status. You will get it. You just requested. You will have it, Neymar. Um, let's see how I can make you a mod here. Ooh, I am. Okay, so I'm still trying to get used to the StreamYard. Um, okay. Um, manage moderators. Oh, how do I do this? Okay. Um, bear with me, Neymar. Let's see. Add moderator. All right, dear sister, congratulations. You are now a moderator on my channel. B1 for life. Thanks for joining the stream, family. Peace, 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 peace and blessings. It's almost 3 a.m., so I have to catch this video tomorrow. Much love. Peace, peace, family. Peace. Enjoy your sleep. All right, so it's 4:46 p.m. here. So yeah, enough of the introduction. I think I have enough people here to start my topic for today. My topic is Trump must go, part 2. Okay. I like to always mimic the Nigerians. So it's they say Trump must go. All right. So that's what a Nigerian would say. Trump must go. Okay. All right. All right. Black Power. All right. So yeah, congratulations, Neymar. You're now a my favorite moderator. I hope Elm City is not here. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah. So Trump must go part two. You must be worried. You must worry about recession. Okay, a lot of people are not worried about recession, but recession, you know, is really really troublesome. And a news article came today on Channel 9 that I wanted to share with you, and also I will talk about why Donald Trump needs to go. Another 4-year term of Donald Trump is really, really going to be dire for everyone globally. You know, so I will talk about it. A couple of days ago, I was on here with a part one, why Trump must go, and it was mainly about his personal attributes and his, you know, Trump's indifference. Okay, he just doesn't care much. Okay, everything is about Donald Trump. You know, everything is about him. Okay, it's all always about him, and he's indifferent to every situation happening around him. You know, in a way, it's good. Okay, especially for Africa. Okay, it's good. China is moving into Africa and doing business, great business with Africa. But Donald Trump is, you know, not moved at all. You know, a lot of people might say that, you know, like the Captain America is always say America first. You know, Donald Trump, that was his slogan as well, America first. You know, so it's sort of like left, you know, cause Africa to thrive on its own. You know, not to be concerned about what the U.S. is doing or have much involvement, U.S. involvement in African affairs and stuff like that. So we see a lot of political uh, I would say turmoil, political disarray, okay, dysfunction, okay, in the United States at the moment, and it's distracting. Okay, it is distracting. Um, you know, the Western countries. Okay, even Brexit alone is distracting the Western countries and their agenda relating to Africa. So, you know, this is benefiting Africa. You know, and Africa is rising. You know, amidst the political disarray in the United States. So I mean, by all, you know, it's great for Africa. You know, it's great for Africa. So yeah. So if you haven't seen that first stream, I suggest you go see it. It was about an hour, 8 10 minutes. Go check it out. And the reasons why I feel that Donald Trump needs to go. You know, people may say that Donald Trump is actually good for black people because, you know, it's, you know, he's really really blatant with his, you know, his position when it comes to, you know, racism and stuff like that. He's made it well known, even though he tweets all the time that he's not racist. But you know, anyone who tweets that I'm not racist is obviously, you know, a racist. You know, so yeah, I mean it's through your actions. Okay, actions speak louder than words or your tweets. So yeah. So without much ado, I am going to share some articles. Okay, I'm going to share some articles, and we should talk about this. Okay, so let's see. So let's have a look. And yeah, if you're coming through, please like the stream. Okay, like the stream. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Okay, help the channel grow. I need 1,000 subscribers by November. Okay. What number am I on the wife scale? Oh, I told you you don't need a number. Famo, you don't need a number. You're always special to my heart. You don't need a number at all. So yeah. So I don't know if this. How do I position this? Can I move this somewhere? I'm trying to position. Okay. All right. So I think this looks better. This looks better. So why should you be worried about recession? Okay. So this article on the 16th of August 2019. Okay. Today is Friday, the Freaky Friday, the 15th of August 2019 for Australia. I'm not too sure about the United States. So yeah, I will get into the article. So this is by 9news network in Australia. So it says, should you be worried about recession? Okay. And the article says, what is recession? So a recession is technically classified. Recession is technically classified as 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth. So when was Australia's last recession? After stock markets crashed around the world in 1987, Australia entered the recession. We had to have, as the then Treasurer Paul Keating, who later on became a Prime Minister of Australia, infamously declared. It began in September quarter of 1990 and finished in the September quarter of 1991. Okay, let me blow this up. I'm trying. Okay. All right. So, what does a recession mean for you? Okay, businesses are less likely to hire new workers and may lay off during a recession, or may lay some off during a recession as their revenues and profits decline. So, as we live in a capitalist society, last year, it must be last year, the Australian government decided to put some taxes. I think it's called a profit tax on the banks. And guess what the banks decided to do? They decided to pass this tax onto the consumers. Okay, so whatever is going on, the business owners are always going to do better. They're always going to do better than you. So it's really, really, really important that we pay attention to politics, and pay attention to who is at the helm of the the country, or decision making when it comes to the economy of the country. So it's on us. Okay, a leader always reflects the people. Okay, the leader always echoes the sentiments of the people. So um, businesses are less likely to hire new workers and may lay some off during a recession as their revenues and profits decline. So these businesses are owned by capitalists, okay, who are only in there for their profits. Okay, if you doubt this, right, how come? Ask yourself, how come you do all the work? Okay, you do all the work. Basically, you slave. Okay, you get paid peanuts, and your CEO walks away with, X amount of millions of dollars a year when you are barely, struggling to make $50,000 a year. And just ask yourself that question. Okay, it's because we live in a capitalist society where business owners can exploit people of less financial advantage. Okay, and this is why it creates this. So these business owners, if they do not meet their quota of profits for the year, they begin to cut down. Okay, they begin to panic. Okay, and cut down on expenditure. Okay, and that goes into, like, employers, employees and stuff like that. Okay, so last year we saw the government of Australia introduce the profit tax, okay, which places some tax on banks, especially because of the profits they're making. And I saw with my own eyes the CEO of Commonwealth Bank, okay, who took home $20 million that year, $20 million, and he is agitated, completely agitated, and saying that they're gonna pass on the tax onto the consumers. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy is taking home 20. He wasn't even a CEO. I think he was the financial board, one of the financial board managements or something. He wasn't even the CEO. Okay, and he was taking home $20 million, and he was, overly agitated. I mean, just because they're not going to make the profit, and he's still going to get his $20 million, but he might miss out on certain benefits, maybe like his free Rolls Royce, or maybe his free holiday to some 10-star hotel somewhere. He might miss out on that, and it has to come out of his $20 million salary. And he's agitated. So, by and large, okay, we the little guys, we suffer the most, okay, and this is why you need to worry about the recession, okay. So I think I've spent enough time on that. So again, I'll take this again. What does a recession mean for you? So businesses are less likely to hire new workers and may lay some off during a recession as their revenues and profits decline. Right. So it goes on to outline, in the aftermath of the last recession, the jobless rate hit 11.2% in December 1992. This is Australia. That compares to its current standing of 5.2%. Okay, the situation can also mean lower incomes and people being less willing to spend the cash they have. So this is what drives the financial crisis. Okay, when people are not spending. So in 2008, 2008, we had the financial crisis as well. And what the then Prime Minister did was inject some cash into the system. So every Australian had about $1,000 to go spend. Okay, and that saved Australia. So if people are not spending money, people are holding on to the money because they're not making more money, then retailers are going to be forced to cut down staff. They're going to go into losses and they're going to withdraw. Okay, they're going to withdraw like that says. So businesses are not going to hire workers and they're going to lay some off, and just because they're not getting their revenues and profits. Okay, right. So it's not like the money is not there. The money is there, but people are not spending. People are not spending. Okay, and that's what is going to drive an economic woes. So now Trump's trade war is going to cost. It's already costing the everyday American, because the tariffs are placed on goods, and businesses are paying for those tariffs, and the business owners are in turn going to pass down those tariffs to the consumer. So you end up paying extra for the items that you want to buy. Okay, and since you don't want to pay extra for the item you want to buy, you reserve your money. Okay, and nobody is spending anything, and the economy becomes stagnant or stagnated, and that crashes the market, right? So the situation can also mean lower incomes and people being less willing to spend the cash they have. Why are people worried a recession may be on the way? So this week, the US bond yield curve inverted for the first time since 2007. The trend, when long-term bonds start earning less interest than short-term ones, has preceded every American recession in the past 50 years. Okay, so if you see my latest video, yeah, you get an idea of what's going on. It's a 3 minutes video. Okay, so you can go check it out. The global recession is here. Okay, go check it out. So the development prompted big stock market losses across the world. The Australian market shed more than $63 billion on Thursday, marking its worst day in 18 months. Okay, and the Australian Stock Exchange fell as well, and our dollar fell to its all-time low, like 63 cents American dollars last month. I'm not too sure what it is at the moment, but yeah. What have been some of the near misses? Okay, so Australia escaped a recession amid Asian financial crisis between 1997 and 1999. The nation also avoided copying the United States recession driven by the dot-com bubble burst in 2001. So I reckon it's basically due to the Y2K. So that was just due to the fear. Okay, only fear factor. Fafa, thanks for joining the stream, family. Thanks for joining the stream. Chaotic Storm, I appreciate you coming through, family. Thanks for joining the stream. Naaman, thanks for doing what you're supposed to do, family. Yeah. Yeah. Like the video, share the stream, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. All right. So yeah, I appreciate all of you coming through. All right. So this is really, really important, right? It's really important. So yeah, Kevin Rudd's government in October 2018 promised a 10.4 billion stimulus package. So yeah, it was Kevin Rudd who did that. And if you do not know Kevin Rudd, you should Google him. He's a very, very smart individual, and he got hated for that. Okay, he got hated for that. But Kevin Rudd, I believe in Kevin Rudd. Okay, he was the first prime minister ever to even apologize to the Aboriginal people, and speak on reconciliation and and stuff like that. So he's a very, very progressive person, and he got hated so much for that, but he did what he had to do. Okay, and he'd go down in history as a great person. So yeah, Kevin Rudd's government in 2018 promised a $10.4 billion stimulus package to defend the domestic economy from the global downturn. So Australia's growth slowed significantly and fell in the December quarter in 2018, but nudged higher the following quarter just because of the stimulus package, because every Australian got like $1,000. I missed out on that myself, but I know a whole lot of people that got it, and everyone was meant to go spend with that. A lot of people used it to pay the credit cards, which actually helps because a lot of the the costs are on people's credit cards. So yeah, a lot of people paid off their credit cards and stuff, but people also went to buy stuff in the shop, and it did actually help the economy, as the article is saying now. So it nudged the economy. So yeah, what is the government? But since Kevin Rudd, okay, the new government that has come has spent so much. Okay, I think since 2007, Australia's debt was about 50 billion. Now Australia's debt is 600 billion dollars. Can you imagine that? So if recession hits, okay, we're gonna be in the shits. All right, we're gonna be in the shits because we owe just so much. We owe too much. So what is the government doing now? So the Morrison government, so Scott Morrison is our new prime minister. The Morrison government believes its latest tax cuts and 100 billion worth of infrastructure funding over the coming decade will help keep the economy moving as it deals with global challenges such as a trade tension between US and China. So I saw another article saying that China is now relying on Australia, to boost its economy, as US is threatening sanctions or whatever. So if you've seen my previous video, which is 3 minutes long, Donald Trump, Mr. Trump is bragging that they've managed to pull 60 billion well, in one breath he said 60 billion, and now another breath he said 59 billion, and then he says again close to 59 billion. I mean, you can't really trust Trump. Okay, if you believe a word Trump is saying, okay, you would be a very dangerous individual. Okay, because nobody can really take Trump seriously. All right, you can't take Trump very seriously. So yeah, yeah. So that was that article. So now you know what recession is. Okay, you need to be very concerned about it. Okay, and I feel like I have been trying to secure a full-time job for a long time, and I am thankful that I have found myself a permanent position at the moment, and I'm hoping that when the next recession comes through, my job would be secured. So, but I pity those who do not have full-time position. Okay, you're gonna be out of work. Okay, when the next recession um, comes. Okay, and it's not far away. It's right around the corner. Okay, and it's all due to Mr. Trump and his tariff wars and his trade wars with China. Okay, I mean, China is good for the world because people are spending money. Okay, if you put tariffs on China, okay, production of goods slow down, people are spending less. Okay, and the economy falls or collapses. Okay, and people have warned Trump about this, but he's not listening. Okay, he's so adamant. He's so I mean, in his self-righteousness. Okay, he's so optimistic, but I feel it's foolishness. Okay, I feel it's foolishness. All right, and everyone is speaking up against it. Even people in his Republican Party are speaking up against it. So except his spokesperson, okay, who is always making excuses for him. All right. I do not know her name right now, but yeah. Uh, yeah. So without much ado, let's see how we're doing here in the chat. Naima, thank you so much, sister. You're doing a great job. I appreciate it. Chaotic Storm, Naima Backner is always, as always, I do. Thank you, Chaotic Storm. Thank you for liking the stream. If you haven't liked the stream, please like the stream. Okay. Chief, go on O'Shea and do a live so we can promote your channel so we can get you more subs. All right, thanks, family. I was on O'Shea before, and they don't really like me very much because I'm always against the ADOS movement and stuff like that. Anything that is anti-African, I always advocate against it. I promote unity, Pan-Africanism, the global unification of everyone of African descent. Okay, this is what it is. Okay, Africa is is going to be the moral judge, okay, of the world, and Africans created everybody on this planet. Okay, so everyone is a child of Africa. That's why we welcome everyone, but other people want to push us away. I mean, it can't happen that way. Okay, it can't happen that way. We're all family. So yeah, I hope to be on O'Shea's show again soon. Just a matter of when. But yeah, I'll work on it. Okay, I'll work on it. But saying this, okay, you can do your little bit by sharing the stream. Also need to create a Facebook page for my channel as well, promote it via Facebook. I do have an Instagram page. So yeah, check out my Instagram. It's Chief Drano, so you just look for Chief Drano. I think I just lost connection. Yeah. All right, I think I'm back now. So my next article is going to be about a little bit about history. Okay, I came across this article. Someone was talking about it, and I did some research on it. Okay, it's all about Mr. Trump's the recent shootings okay, in El Paso or El Paso, where a gunman, okay, who was echoing Mr. Trump's words, okay, and sentiments, left a manifesto as the Australian terrorists in New Zealand did the same. Uh, you know, you know, some of Trump's sentiments were, they are replacing us. They taking us over. They invading us. So Trump paints and demonizes other people, especially migrants or immigrants, as threats. And this is nothing new. This is nothing new. This has been going on in the U.S. History since its birth, since its inception. Okay, and it's all rooted in capitalism. Okay, capitalism where a select group of people, a few group of people, uh, you know, capitalizes on other people. Okay, and enslave them. Okay, and now slavery still goes on. Okay, and it's economic slavery. Okay, and these rich people decide to create the banks and stuff, and now there's a credit card. A lot of people get hooked on the credit card, and they are slaves to the credit cards schemes for perpetuity, indefinite, periods of time, and they spend their whole life working and working and paying bills. Okay, and that's economic slavery. But before that economic slavery, there was a physical slavery where my ancestors were exploited, okay, to work for free. Okay, and it was all driven by capitalism, and just a select group of people who sat down and thought to themselves that I could take advantage of these people, okay, and just make myself wealthy at their own expense, okay. So this is where we are at the moment with capitalism, okay. And yeah, as they say, money is what makes the world go round. So this is what it is. So I am going to jump into a bit of history, okay. History, as I say, okay, repeats itself, okay, and especially those who do not learn their history, those who do not know their history are bound to repeat it. Okay, those who do not know their history are bound to repeat it. Okay, and it was coined by this philosopher, I forgot his name now. Okay, who coined it after World War I, and said that, and shortly after, okay, World War II took place, and we are on the verge of World War III. But I say World War III would be so, detrimental to the entire planet, um, you know, because of all the nuclear arsenal that are present right now. So we are going to annihilate ourselves if we should, if we should, uh, play with World War III, as a game. So yeah, someone like Donald Trump is not helping things. Okay, a lot of people speak against Donald Trump for one reason that the United States, as the most powerful nation, okay, the only country that spends $750 billion on its military, okay. A lot of people are criticizing Trump's government that, why are they allowing, Russia to fester, why are they allowing China to build up, military bases around the world and stuff like that. It's just giving rise to imperialism all over again. And they think that, it's a good thing for the United States to become or to continue being a world police. But some people, are happy that Donald Trump is focusing more on the United States, but in doing that, it's ruining the USA, and it's taking its stronghold on the globe as the superpower of the world. Is taking its stronghold away and basically placing it to China and Russia, and Iran and Syria as an alliance. So a lot of people criticize Trump about that, but Trump feels indifferent, okay, and he loves his country. So yeah, That's one thing I like about Mr. Trump. Okay, just that he's not bothering too much about, he's not bothering Africa too much. So yeah, whilst he does that, okay, Africa is thriving. So this is what we want. All right. So I really welcome it. Okay, I really support Donald Trump for that reason. But as a logical person, I feel like Mr. Trump needs to go. Okay, because we do not want a global recession. Okay, and if he continues on his current trend, we are going to have a global recession, which won't be good for anybody. Okay, anybody, especially us in the in the first world countries or the Western countries. It won't be good for us at all. So yeah. So yeah, without much ado, I am going to share uh, another. I'm going to share another. Okay, okay. So I'm going to share another. I'm going to share that one. Okay, sharing there. Okay. So this article is from his. It was dated on just recently, actually. I think it was in July. What was this? I can't see this. I can't see the date on this. But anyway, I think it was dated on July 29th or something. Just recently came out. Okay, recently this article came out. Okay, and I'm gonna read. Why is this not zooming? I need it to. All right. Okay. Hide. Okay, so can you all see me? Can you all see me? Okay. Have to check on my screen. Yeah, so this article is from, I hope you're still here, Julia, Sister Julia D, you here? Okay, this article is from the History channel. Okay, History Stories. Okay, July 12th. Okay, I'm sorry, July 12th, 2019. Okay, the U.S. deported 1 million of its own citizens to Mexico during the Great Depression. Okay, so if you're still here, hang on. Okay, so if you're still here, okay, you would know that just recently we had the El Paso shootings, and some 22 people got killed, and shortly after, I think 14, 13 hours later, another crazy person went to shoot up a club and killed 9 people, including his own sister. Okay, so because of this, okay, racism, white supremacy has been brought to the forefront, and it's on the lips of everyone now, even the staunch, person that says there's no racism and there's no white supremacy and stuff like that. Now, all the news outlets are echoing the news about racism and white supremacy as a threat, the biggest threat to everybody on this planet. Okay, everybody on this planet, even white women. Okay, racism, white supremacy. Chaotic Storm, thanks. I'm glad you're still here. Racism and white supremacy is even detrimental to white women. And I usually hate to use the word white because nobody's really white. Okay, nobody's really white if you want to talk about skin color people. And racism was started off based on skin color. and it just became absurd when North Africans were classified as white. And i.e., myself, I'm 60% Moroccan Berber, and I could be classed as white, which doesn't really make sense. Okay, it doesn't really make sense at all. Indians were classed as white, and there are Indians darker than me. It's really absurd, right? So white is just not the right word to describe any group of people, but it was just a social construct. Okay, it doesn't really mean your skin color is white. It's just a social construct, which does not hold any validity in 2019 anyway. So as I was saying, racism and white supremacy is even dire. Okay, it's really detrimental to white people, white women themselves. Okay, aka the Caucasian women. Okay, just yesterday, excuse me to I chuckled about this, but just yesterday, a white male, okay, uh, went into a Sydney apartment or hotel and killed a white female. Okay, basically slashed her throat and killed her. Okay, this is what the racist white male can do. Okay, to even his own female, right? Uh, so much has happened in history, and it was all mostly based on greed and the fear of the black world, basically. So they fear the rising population of Africa. So they do what they do. They enslave. They formulate diseases and vaccines. They contaminate vaccines with deadly diseases and sterilization agents just to do everything in their power to suppress uh, the African. But in 2019, okay, their entire scheme is crumbling, and it's even affecting themselves. When we talk about the effects of racism and white supremacy in the even during the Jim Crow, okay, there were over 1,000 white people or European Americans that got killed or lynched as well. And the lynching said, I mean, the records of the lynching said it were almost 5,000 people were lynched between the years of I think 1840 1845 to 1930s or 1945, even 100 years, almost 5,000 people were lynched. And this is only recorded. What about the people that were not recorded? A lot of people went missing, and as people were thrown off bridges and stuff like that, and a lot of murders were committed in the bush silently and stuff like that. A whole lot of atrocities happened. Okay, and in 2019 we are uncovering all these things. Okay, thanks to the History Channel. So yeah, without much ado, I'm going to read this article for you and make of it what you will. Okay, the article will speak for itself. But I just thought I'll tell you what exactly was going on. And even during then, in 1919, I think there was the red summer. Okay, because there was so much riots in the United States, and it was mainly due to race. Okay, race riots because um, the so-called non-white races were being tormented by the racist whites. So yeah, especially in the southern states of the United States. So there's an episode in the history of Texas. It's called what's it called? Ma, Ma, Matayana, I think Matayana. The Matayana. Let me see. I think I wrote this down somewhere. Let me excuse me. I'll refer to this. Okay. I want to make sure that I'm saying it right. Okay. I can't seem to find it now. It just skipped me, but I don't think I wrote it down. America can only make so many enemies before its enemies become friends. Yeah, yeah. No, no. I think the U.S. is just going to implode on itself. Okay, racism, white supremacy is just going to implode on itself, especially with someone like Mr. Trump in power. It's just going to implode on itself. But yeah, this I can't really pronounce it. Matalayana, I think. The Matayana. It's a Spanish word. Okay, but yeah, basically it speaks about the the Texas Rangers. Okay, or the organization that led to the Texas Rangers. Okay, that were meant to expel a lot of Mexicans out of the Texas. And mind you, Texas was part of Mexico. So Texas gained its own autonomy in I think in 1845, I think. No, 1836 from Mexico, and then became part of the United States in 1845. But yeah, so those people in Texas were Mexicans, okay, or are Mexicans, and they never left. They're the same people there. But yeah, so if you tell the Mexicans in Texas to go back to where they come from, I mean, they are in their country. And a few years ago, Texas was trying to secede from the Union. So yeah, so that's a prelude to this article, and you should know that the Texas Rangers murdered close to 5,000, Mexicans or Texans. Okay, so you should know about that. Okay. So I'll get into this article. So the U.S. Deported millions of its own citizens to Mexico during the Great Depression. So we know the Great Depression took place in the early 1920, I think 1929, and then which led to the World War II. Anyway, so without much ado, I'm going to read this. So uh, up to 1.8 million people of Mexican descent. And this is really silly because there's nothing like a Mexican descent. Okay, there's nothing like a Mexican descent. Okay, because when you talk about descent, okay, you're talking about ancestry. Okay, and nobody is indigenous to the Americas. Okay, nobody is indigenous to the Americas. Everybody in the Americas has a mixed ancestry. Okay, everybody in the United States has or in the Americas, period, has a mixed ancestry. So if you say Mexican descent, okay, it's just misnomer. Okay, it's wrong. But if you say country of origin, that's correct. Okay, but if you say descent, okay, that speaks with ancestry, and nobody has Mexican originality. Okay, Mexico is just a new country, you know, you know, in history. Okay, so yeah, but then yeah, for the sake of that, I'll just read it. So up to 1.8 million people of Mexican origin, uh, country of origin, I would say, most of them American born, were rounded up in informal raids and deported in an effort to reserve jobs for white people. Okay. So then racism was in full flight. Okay. So in the 1930s, the Los Angeles Welfare Department decided to start deporting hospital patients. So it started off deporting hospital patients. Okay. And this is really sad. Okay. People that need medical attention, you deport them. Okay. So uh, in 1930s, the Los Angeles Welfare Department decided to start deporting hospital patients of Mexican descent. Okay, and again, this used on Mexican descent, and that is wrong. One of the patients was a woman with leprosy who was driven just over the border and left in Mexicali, Mexico. So obviously across the border. Others had tuberculosis, paralysis, mental illness, or problems related to old age, but that didn't stop orderlies from carrying them out. of medical institutions, carrying them out of medical institutions and sending them out of the country. So these were the repatriation drives, a series of informal raids that took place around the United States during the Great Depression. So local government and officials deported up to 1.8 million people to Mexico, according to research conducted by Joseph Dunn, a former California state senator. Dunn estimates around 60% of these people were actually American citizens. So mind you, 60% of these people were actually American citizens, many of them born in the United States to first-generation immigrants. For these citizens, deportation wasn't repatriation, it was exile from their own country. Okay, and if you know the history as well, California was also part of Mexico. Okay, and now California is predominantly, Mexican or Latinos. So it was exiled from their country. Okay, so the logic behind these raids was that Mexican immigrants were supposedly using resources and working jobs that should go to white Americans affected by Great Depression. Okay, so this sentiment here just echoes exactly what Donald Trump is saying. Okay, and Donald Trump basically echoes the everyday, racist white person in the United States. So Trump is basically their spokesperson, as his name suggests. He's a Trump, right? Yeah, he's blowing the trumpet for all these people who have such sentiments about immigrant and mind you, everyone in the United States, in the Americas, is as a result of immigrants, okay, or migration. Okay, so again, nobody's indigenous really to the Americas. Okay, everyone's indigenous, okay, identity is bound to Africa. That's where we all came from and migrated across the globe. So yeah. So yeah, to say if anyone is really indigenous to anywhere else, it's got to be Africans, okay, because they're the original people of this planet. Anyway, so the logic behind these raids was that Mexican immigrants were supposedly using resources and working jobs that should go to white Americans affected by the Great Depression. These deportations happened not only in the border states like California and Texas, but also in places like Michigan, Colorado, Illinois, Ohio, and New York. In 2003, a Detroit-born U.S. citizen named Jose Lopez testified before the California Legislative Committee about his family's 1931 deportation to Michoacan estate in western Mexico. I was 5 years old when we were forced to relocate, he said. I became very sick with whooping cough and suffered very much, and it was difficult to breathe. After both of his parents had one brother died in Mexico, he and his surviving siblings managed to return to the United States in 1945. We were lucky to come back, he said, but there are others that were not so fortunate. The raids tore apart families and communities, leaving lasting trauma for Mexican Americans who remained in the US as well. Former California State Senator Martha M. Escutia had said that growing up in East Los Angeles, her immigrant grandfather never even walked to the corner grocery store without his passport for fear of being stopped and deported. Even after he became a naturalized citizen, he continued to carry it with him. So this is really sad. Okay, so this actually echoes a stage in history where even freed black people, okay, in the North, okay, as you know, the northern states, were basically banned or abolished slavery. Some northern states abolished slavery, like Pennsylvania, Scotia, and stuff like that. Okay, they banned slavery, and they abolished slavery way back in the 1700s. I think 1772, slavery was abolished in some of the states in the USA, right? So if someone who comes from a state that slavery was abolished makes a journey into, say, comes down to the southern states, he could be captured. Okay, he could be captured and sold into slavery again. So that was the situation, and this is what was happening here. So he so this man here had to he remembers his father had to, or grandfather had to always carry his papers to show that he was actually a U.S. citizen. And similarly, free slaves had to have documentation showing that they were free, so that they don't get captured again. And the racists at the time didn't really care. Okay, whether you have documentation or not, they would they'll sell into slavery regardless. So okay, so this is an image here from Pinit. Okay, relatives and friends wave goodbye to train carrying 1,500 people being expelled from Los Angeles back to Mexico in 1931. Okay, so this is like the height of the Great Depression, right? So the deportation of U.S. citizens has always been unconstitutional. Okay, so it's unconstitutional to deport U.S. citizens, right? Yet scholars argue the way in which repatriation drives deported non-citizens was unconstitutional too. One of the issues is the repatriation took place without any legal protections in place or any kind of due process. So, says Kevin R. Johnson. Okay, so it was unconstitutional. It was against the law. Okay, but they did it anyway. Okay, they did it anyway. Says Kevin R. Johnson, a dean and professor of public interest law and Chicana /O studies at University of California, Davis School of Law. So you could argue that all of them were unconstitutional, all of them were illegal because no modicum of process was followed. Okay. Instead, local governments and officers with little knowledge of immigrants' rights simply arrested people and put them on trucks, buses, or trains be bound for Mexico, regardless of whether they were documented immigrants or even native-born citizens. Deporters rounded up children and adults however they could, often raiding public places where they thought Mexican Americans hung out. In 1931, one Los Angeles raid rounded up more than 400 people at La Placita Park and deported them to Mexico. So, yeah, currently we're seeing what's happening with the ICE. Okay, what is this? Immigration Commission. Immigration Commission for what is it that we call it? Enforcement, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Okay, that's what it meant, the ICE, and they were arresting a lot of illegal. They call them illegal immigrants. Okay, but you allow them to come in the first place. Okay, when they don't serve your purpose anymore, then you decide to let them go. Okay, and it's been said that Trump himself employs illegal immigrants himself. So they enjoy the labor of these illegal immigrants, but they speak ill about them. Okay, so yeah, hypocrites, right? So these raids were different in some ways from what's going on today. Johnson says, although the federal government in the 1930s did prosecute 44,000 people under Section 1325, the same law that criminalizes unauthorized entry today. These criminal prosecutions were separate from the local raids, which were informal and lacked any due process. There is also a much more active group of lawyers advocating on behalf of immigrants today. So, he says, in the 1930s, there was nothing like that. So in the 1930s, they could just round you up and take you away. So this is really scary, as you know, as you're an African American. Okay, when it comes to the crunch, okay, they can't distinguish whether you're African or you're African American. If it comes to deporting anybody that looks like me and you, okay, they're not gonna care whether you are a U.S. citizen or not. As long as you're walking down the street, they're just gonna, you know, capture you and take you on a bus or whatever and just ship you out of the country. Okay, this is what's going to happen in the next, in the future. Okay, and especially if you have someone like Mr. Trump in office, and all the racists would all the racists will come out and vote for Donald Trump. And a new article has come out about the evangelical association of uh, of the United States. The evangelical churches in the United States still say they support Donald Trump. Still say they support Donald Trump. So you can see even as they proclaim their religious, affiliation, or Jesus is all about love, blah blah blah, bullshit. Okay, they are as racist as they can be. I mean, one of the most racist things I've ever heard, comes out of the church, out of the mouth of some of the pastors. And this is the reason why I have stopped going to church. Okay, I have stopped going to church because God cannot be racist. But in the Bible, God is racist. Okay, the creator of the entire universe has a favorite group of people. That's racist. But then that God proclaims he created everybody else. I mean, it just doesn't make sense whatsoever. So I'm not going to go into any religious rant at the moment, but yeah, you get my point. Okay, they're all hypocrites. Okay, yeah. So, how are you guys going on there in the chat? Chaotic Storm, I hope you're still tracking. Sister Neymar, are you still there? You still there? Um, yeah. So, yeah. Although there was no federal law or executive order authorizing the 1930s raids, so there you have it. Okay, there were no federal law or executive order authorizing the 1930s raids. So these racists can just come out and do whatever they want to do. Okay, and you can't do anything. They'll just round you up. Okay, now they're not even doing that. They're just going down to your churches and shooting you. Dylan Roof, right? He just go in your church and kill you. He sees no value in you, so they just go and mass shoot you because they don't have the power anymore to round you up. Okay, they can't do that, so they just go and sacrifice one of them, and kill you. Okay, and this is ultimately against the black man. Ultimately against the black man. Okay. But they know they can't do that now because if they're attacking black people, okay, they know black people got guns as well. It's going to be a race war. Okay, although whites have the most guns, okay, white guns outnumber black guns by 10-1. So when it comes to a race war, I mean, it's all about who has the biggest gun, right? Who has seen this movie? The Godfather. Al Pacino. Do you like my gun? Yeah. So I mean, these people, their manhood is in a gun. Okay, as said by this Dr. Frances Wilson. Okay, I have one of her books. It's called the ISIS Papers. Sorry, ISIS Papers or the ISIS Papers. One of my favorite people in history. Okay, she recently passed away. Yeah. Yeah, she really goes into depth in the psychology of racism, white supremacy. Okay, and it's a psychological disorder. Okay, basically it's sociopaths. Okay, any racist is basically a sociopath, right? Right. So yeah, I mean they could do exactly what, and mind you, like, don't think this is history. Okay, as I stated before, history is always bound to repeat itself. I mean, in fact, history is always repeating itself. History is always repeating itself. Just that we don't know what's happening. Okay, every event that's happening right now, we can always tie it to history. Okay, and what's happening currently, okay, this is what this is what I'm reading now, and I'm tying it to history. Okay, the anti-Mexican sentiment has happened before, and it led to about 5,000 people being murdered. Okay, 5,000 people being murdered, right? Still can't remember can't, I can't remember now. Malayanta, Malayanta. Chaotic storm. Do you know what it is? Malayanta. Let me Google this. Let me Google it. Malayanta. Malayanta. Malayanta comes up with the Malayanta comes up with the pig-looking thing that looks like a um a, tapi or whatever they call it. Looks like a tap. What's that animal's name? Tapi or tapi or whatever it's called. Which it kind of looks like a pig and it looks like an elephant as well. I think that's what it is. So yeah, it's vulgar. Okay, it's a racist term for Mexicans. Okay, La Malayanta. But anyway, so it led to the murder of about 5,000 Mexicans, right? 5,000 Mexicans by an organization, a terroristic organization, okay, which gave rise to Texas Rangers, okay, and we all know that even the police force came out of the slave catchers and slave raiders, okay, so yeah. So nothing has changed, family. Nothing has changed. That's why when you see a black man being marched through the street, walked, 8 blocks in this city called is it Galveston in Texas, and all this is happening in Texas. The racists are still there. They still there. They're not gone. They're not gone. They're still there. That's why you can see this happening in Texas. They're still there, right? Marching a black man who simply just trespassed, okay, who is mentally ill, trespassed onto someone's property, and police was called on him, okay, and they came on horses. They came on horses and tied him to a rope and walked him through the street like it was the 1800s. It's just so crazy. So I mean, history is always repeating itself. It's only up to you if you actually pay attention to it. It's happening all around us. Okay. And the people who do not know the history and understand history are always bound to repeat it. Always bound to repeat it. So yeah, and majority of Americans do not know the history and do not understand the history and understand why these things are happening. But these things have happened in history and they keep happening. Okay, they keep happening. So you have to educate yourself about it. Okay, and one of the ways to create change is to think about something. Okay, and correct your thoughts before it turns into an action. Okay, yeah. So I mean, your thoughts always lead to your feelings, and your feelings always lead to action, and your action is always going to determine your outcome, or your actions is going to determine your future. It's going to determine your future. So correct your thinking. Always correct your thinking. Make sure you're thinking right. Okay. As our people say, get your mind right. All right, get your mind right. Right. Okay. So I'll move on. So these raids were different in some ways from what's going on today. I don't think they were different, family. I think they're still the same, Johnson says. Although the federal government in the 1930s did prosecute 44,000 people under Section 1325, the same law that criminalizes unauthorized entry today. These criminal prosecutions were separate from local raids, which were informal and lacked due process. Okay, so although there was no federal law or executive order authorizing the 1930s raids, President Herbert Hoover. Okay, yeah, so President Herbert Hoover is the 31st president of the United States. Okay, and he served only one term. Okay, just as Mr. Trump most likely would serve one term. Okay, uh, you know, it's in the same spirit and environment. All these things happening, okay, happened almost 100 years ago. Okay, and it's said that every 100 years, the same cycle of events occurs. Okay, so the depression in the 1930s, okay, is happening now. The joblessness, okay, people complain about immigrants. I gotta charge my. People complain about immigrants and migrants and stuff like that. The same sentiments were going on in 1930s, and that led to World War II, or at least the U.S. entry into World War II. Mind you, it started in Germany too, where the so-called Jews were holding the German economy, hostage. Okay, they were holding the German economy hostage, and the same Jews funded Hitler and Hitler's wars. It was the same Jews that funded the war. So they're playing both sides. And these people, through war, they make money. Through war, the bankers make a lot of money because a lot of guns are made, a lot of guns are sold, ammunition is sold. You know, people take loans to rebuild. I mean, a whole lot of money is made when there's war. And you might call it blood sacrifice. But yeah, so coming back to this president, Mr. Herbert Hoover, Mr. Herbert Clark Hoover, his full name. Okay, the 31st president of the United States. Okay, it was during his time. Okay, that I think even during 1931, he was the uh, he was in charge of the treasury, I think, or something like that. Okay, that led to the depression and recession at the time, and he became the president of the United States in 1933, 1933, 1929. Okay, 1929 to 1933. Okay, then he became the president, and it was during this time that it was the height of the Great Depression. Okay, and during his time, he coined the phrase "American jobs for Americans, for real Americans." So American jobs for real Americans. Does that sound like Mr. Trump, or doesn't that sound like Mr. Trump? Okay, Mr. Trump sounds exactly like him. Make Americans great again. What does it mean, make Americans great again? There was never a time that America was great or the United States was great. There was never a time. Never. You cannot call yourself a great country when you oppress your own citizens and you murder your own citizens. How great is that? I mean, so all this is happening. I mean, the U.S. has to be a very, very hypocritical, country or government, and this is why Hitler was hell bent on fighting them. You know, America and her allies. You know, because they all on code. You know, on oppressing their own citizens. As of now, the biggest killer in the U.S. is the police force. The police force. Okay. In fact, the police killings as it now is almost 600 people have been murdered or killed by police this so far this year. You know, far more than a terrorist would in the United States. The police. So yeah. So bear in mind, okay, President Herbert Clark Hoover, okay, echoes the words of Donald Trump, or Donald Trump echoes the words of Herbert Hoover almost 100 years ago. Okay. So yeah, President Herbert Hoover's administration, which used the racially coded slogan, "American jobs for Americans, for real Americans." So what does it mean by real Americans? Like, is there anyone that is a real American? There's nobody that's a real American. I mean, even the term American is for the entire continent. Okay, there's North America and South America. Okay, everybody is American. Okay, the country that they refer to is called the United States. Diplomatically, okay, it's called the United States of America. Okay, the U.S. That's the country. America is not a country. So all these people are not even educated enough to even articulate that. So implicitly approve of them. So yeah. His Secretary of Labor, William Doak, also helped pass local laws and arrange agreements that prevented Mexican Americans from holding jobs. Mexican Americans doesn't even make sense. Mexican Americans. Mexicans are Americans. Mexicans are Americans. So yeah, it's just misnomer. It's just stupid beyond this point. Okay, because they do not understand. Anybody who do not understand is always bound to make mistakes. Anyone who does not understand history is always bound to make mistakes and repeat history. So yeah, it doesn't ring a bell. Who don't think so? Speaking. What do you mean? Chaotic storm. Don't think so. Doesn't ring a bell. What do you mean? The American jobs for real Americans doesn't ring a bell to you? Doesn't sound like Mr. Trump. Make Americans great again. America first. America for Americans. Doesn't it sound like Mr. Trump? Okay. And mind you, it was during this time that a lot of Mexicans were lynched as well. A lot of Mexicans were lynched. So it's not only African Americans that were lynched. Okay, Mexicans were lynched as well. So his Secretary of Labor, William Doak, also helped pass local laws and arrange agreements that prevented Mexican Americans from holding jobs. Some laws banned Mexican Americans from government employment, regardless of their citizenship status. Meanwhile, companies like Ford, U.S. Steel, and Southern Pacific Railroad agreed to lay off thousands of Mexican American workers. So yeah, los extranjeros residente and okay, my Spanish is not that great at the moment. So yeah, Mexican citizens entering the United States at an immigration station in El Paso, Texas, 1938. So, however, modern economists who study the effect of 1930s repatriation drives on cities argue the raids did not boost local economies. Okay, so basically, it was only bent on racism, but it's not. It didn't boost the economy at all. The repatriation of Mexicans who were mostly laborers and farm workers reduced demand for other jobs mainly held by the natives. And the migrants now, like in the United States, are doing the menial tasks. There's this movie I watched about. I forgot what's it called. But I think that movie is somewhat derogatory. It was Jennifer Lopez that played like a I don't know if you've seen it. Who's seen that movie? She was like a hotel worker from like Mexico, like an illegal immigrant or whatever, coming to the U.S. and she was a hotel worker and then found herself a rich white male, a rich white man, and married her and basically lived happily ever after. I forgot what movie it was, but yeah, Jennifer Lopez. She was really hot in that movie. But yeah, saying that it's really disgusting to think about it now, but JLo is like almost 60 years old. So yeah, it's almost disrespectful for me to even think of Jello as a, you know, as a sex object. I mean, um, yeah. Anyway, where was I? So yeah, Chaotic Storm says no, no, that doesn't ring a bell. No, no, not that. What was it, family? Remind me. Okay, remind me, because I thought you were disputing me, and I would like you to explain yourself. Okay, I'd like you to explain. I'm also learning here as we go. So if you have any information or any query, you can always voice it out. Okay. If you disagree, okay, let me know where you disagree, and we can talk about it, and I can get educated. So I'm always open. Okay, I'm always open. I'm learning as I go as well. So yeah. So the repatriation of Mexicans who were mostly laborers and farm workers reduced demand for other jobs mainly held by natives, such as skilled craftsmen and managerial, administrative, and sales jobs. Right Economist in 2017 academic paper circulated by the non-partisan National Bureau of Economic Research. In fact, our estimates suggest that it may have further increased their levels of unemployment and depressed their wages. Hoover lost the presidential election in 1932 because voters who now referred to shanty towns as Hoovervilles blamed him for the ongoing depression. Indeed, Hoover's decision to raise import tariffs. So again, here we go, right? Import tariffs. So this guy basically sounds like Donald Trump, right? So he raised. Indeed, Hoover's decision to raise import tariffs did prolong the depression at home and abroad. So this is not only to do with the United States. Whatever is happening in the United States, it's having its ripple effects across the globe. And I stated before that the United States, I mean, Australia is United States' #1 trading partner. So if the shit hits the fan in the United States, we are affected here in in Australia as well. It affects us because we're tagging along with the US. But most countries are tagging along with the US. So if the US falls, okay, we all fall with them. Okay, and it's very very important that we stand up again against Mr. Trump. At least skew his direction. Okay, skew his direction from sending us all down a cliff. Off a cliff. So I'll take that again. Indeed, Hoover's decision to raise import tariffs did prolong the depression at home and abroad. The next president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, didn't officially sanction repatriation drives, but neither did he suppress them. These raids continued under his administration and only really died out during World War One, during World War Two, when the U.S. began recruiting temporary Mexican workers through the Bracero program because it needed wartime labor. So they deport all the Mexicans, okay, when they didn't need them, and when they needed them, they imported them back. That's why after the World War II, okay, when the veterans came back, okay, they started lynching the Mexicans. They started lynching the Africans. Okay, it's said that African American soldiers came back from the World War II and they were lynched in their uniforms. Okay, so this is how bad this racism goes, right? And this is true racism. Those days were true racism. It's not that someone is calling you like a black monkey. Okay, that is not racism. That's bigotry or just stupidity. Because nobody is really monkey, but yeah, this is just stupidity and unlearned at that point. But if someone should lynch you just because they are not doing economically well, or you are doing better than them economically, okay, for them to murder you over that, okay, that's pure racism. Okay, so racism is a system of oppression, okay, which is deep rooted in the government institutions. Okay, sanctioned by the government. Okay, covertly and overtly. Okay, sanctioned. Okay, which basically leads to the acquisition of wealth and the distribution of it to benefit a select group of people. Okay, and you know ruin the lives of others. Okay, that is the definition of racism. Okay, so bear that in mind. So in 2005, California State Senator Joseph Dunn helped pass the Apology Act for the 1930s Mexican repatriation program. California deported about 400,000 people during that time, and the act officially apologized. The act officially apologized for the fundamental violation of their basic civil liberties and constitutional rights committed during the period of illegal deportation and coerced um, immigration. Um, so yeah, it took nearly 100 years, okay, 80 years for them to apologize for this. 80 years, yeah, 75 years. The act also called the creation of a commemoration plaque in Los Angeles in 2012. The city unveiled the plaque near the site of 1931. This is only happening because California is now majority Latino, right? It's all only because it's majority Latino. So because when you go to California, California is governed, and you know the laws are made by Latinos, people of you know you know people coming from Latin America or people from Mexico, okay, immigrants from Mexico becoming U.S. citizens. They were able to change the constitution and make it a haven for the people. Okay, so African Americans need to centralize themselves in the U.S. as well. Find a state of Georgia, state of you know Louisiana. Okay, right. Centralize yourselves. Okay, and hold position of power. Okay, and then you can skew things to benefit your people. Okay, so this is what the Latinos are doing, right? The act also called the creation of a commemorative plaque in Los Angeles. In 2012, the city unveiled the plaque near the site of a 1931 La Placita Park raid. Okay, the next year, California passed a law requiring its public schools to teach repatriation drive history, which until recently has been largely overlooked. So when are they going to pass laws to teach slavery, the transatlantic slavery in class? When are they going to pass, law for public schools to teach the sufferings of our ancestors? Okay, and I'm pretty sure they do, but the history of most people think, or most people know the history of African Americans or Black people or people of African descent in the Americas only starts with slavery or 1619, where we know that Africans had been in Americas since the beginning of time, or since Africans left Africa. And we know now that about 50,000 years ago, Africans were already these people called the Twa or the Khoisans, okay, were already all over the world. They were all over the world. Those are our direct ancestors, and they're still alive today in the Kalahari Desert in Southern Africa, right? In Southern Africa, which I also do have direct DNA with. Okay, so that's the end of that article. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. There's another one that I'll share, and then one more article, and then we'll close out. Okay. So chaotic storm. The AU vision better not have capitalism in mind. Okay. Yeah. Um. The reason why the capitalism won't really work in Africa is because we see what capitalism is doing in Africa. It's failing, right? Capitalism fails in Africa. Let me come back to myself. Okay, so capitalism doesn't really work in Africa. Okay, you know that when you want to start a business in Africa, capitalism doesn't really work. My own mother owned a business before we came to Australia, and ask her about it, how the business is gone. Okay, okay. Simply put, okay, the business is no more because Africans don't really understand capitalism. They don't understand money. They think when they have money, they need to spend it now. I don't blame them. I don't blame them because we as black people, we've been deprived for so long, and when we have something of significant value, we want to let everybody know that yes, we've made it. Okay, yes, we've made it, so we want to spend all of it. And this is why even if we get reparations, or my brothers and sisters in the United States, if they get reparations, the hashtag ADOS, if they get reparations, they're going to spend the money within a year. The money is going to be gone. It's going to go back to white corporations. Okay, it's going to go back to the people that gave them the money in the first place. Even if you put the money in a bank, okay, you be charged fees on the money. Okay, you be charged fees on the money. They're going to make money off your money. They're always finding ways to make money off you. But the African always spends, the African always spends, and never worries about tomorrow because we come from a place where there's plenty. We don't need to worry about tomorrow. We never developed that aspect of our lives that we need to, deprive other people to preserve ourselves for the future. We've never had that concept. Okay, Africans never had that concept to deprive other people, to go and invade people and take what they have. Africans never had that concept. Even when Egypt invaded all the way into Turkey and into Russia, they never had intentions of staying there. Okay, they only invaded to drive away their enemies, and they retreated back into Africa because that's where they want to be. They just want to hold their own spot, be in their home, right? Yeah. So yeah, capitalism will never be fruitful in Africa. So the only thing, the African is very, very socialistic. Okay, and that was the early founding fathers of the African Union. It's one like Dr. Kwame Nkrumah understood that it was only through socialism that Africa will be liberated. But the West doesn't like that, so they took him out, right? Took out Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and fast forward 60 years from then, see how greatly tell me how greatly capitalism has benefited Africa. It hasn't. It hasn't at all. When you have someone like Yoweri Museveni in power for like 38 years, I mean, come on. Yeah. So I will read another article relating to the one that I just read. Okay. And um, this one is a short read. It's not a long one. Okay, so I'll just breeze through it. Okay, I'll breeze through it quickly. So the previous one I read was from the History Channel, but this one was a very old article. Okay, that really talked into depths of this history one that I just read. All right, so share screen. Okay, so can you all see the new tab? Can you all see the new tab? Not yet. What did I do? All right, you see it. It's up now. All right, so yeah, this article from Washington Post, dating back 2018, so yeah, it's not that old. Says the time a president deported 1 million Mexican Americans for supposedly stealing US jobs. Okay. So yeah. Tell me this does not echo Mr. Trump. Okay. Tell me. Okay. You don't need a brain of a genius. Okay. You do not need a brain of a genius to tell me to know that this is basically like Donald Trump, and it's just history. It's just history repeating itself, right? History is repeating itself. So yeah, I show this. I showed you this in the history channel. Okay. So this article on August 13th, 2018. On February 26, 1931, a sunny Sunday in Los Angeles, hundreds gathered for an afternoon of relaxation in the La Placita Park in the heart of the city's Mexican community. Suddenly, a large group of plainclothes officers armed with guns and batons entered the park. Two officers were posted at each entrance to La Placita so that no one could leave. Dozens of flatbed trucks circled the park's perimeter. Okay. So listen to this retropod. Okay. So this is basically this is what I said this before in the previous article that they're just sitting down having a recreational time, okay, i.e. just having your church service, i.e. just having your family reunion, okay, and a truck will roll up, okay, and it's going to be white supremacists with guns that will force you into a truck. If you do not go into this truck, okay, they're going to shoot you. So they force you into the truck and they will drive you far away, cross the border, okay. They drive you far away and then you cannot enter the United States anymore because you do not have any papers on you. You do not have a passport. You do not have anything. You can't cross the border. Okay. You do not have any form of identification. How can you come back into the United States? So a whole lot of these missing people's cases, some of this could be tied up in this because people could be abducted and driven off across the border and left there. Okay, and they can't come back to the United States because they got no papers. All right, so I mean, it's really sickening, right? But yeah, suddenly a large group of plainclothes officers armed with guns and batons entered the park. So these are police officers, right? So as we know, that racism, white supremacy is in the police force, currently in the police force. So this shouldn't surprise you. This was happening in 1931. 1931. It's still happening now. Okay, 90 years ago, it's still happening now. Okay, so yeah, don't be fooled at all. It's still happening. So the KKK are in the police force and they're doing what they do. The race soldiers. Okay, as Philip Scott would say. So two officers were posted at each entrance to La Placita so that no one could leave. Dozens of flatbed trucks circled the park's perimeter. Officers rounded up all the people with brown skin and said, Joseph Dunn, a former Democratic state senator from California who researched this forgotten episode of US history. And it's really stupid too, like anyone with brown skin, as if there are people with green skin. I mean, it's really silly. Panic swept through the crowd. About 400 park patrons were lined up and asked to show proof of legal entry and citizenship of the United States. The Mexican immigrants and Mexican. So, I mean, if that happens today, family, do you have your proof of US citizenship on you? Do you have your proof of US citizenship on you? So if this happens today, you'll be done for. Okay. So the Mexican immigrants and Mexican Americans who could not produce proper documentation were detained. Then some were put on trucks and sent to the city's main railroad station. Dunn said once there, they were ordered onto previously chartered trains and taken deep into Mexico, according to Dunn. So this was all planned. It was planned. So you mean all this thing is being planned and the president is not aware of it? Of course he's aware. Of course he's aware. The raid came at the height of the Great Depression and on the heels of President Herbert Hoover's announcement of a national program of American jobs for real Americans, code words for getting rid of Mexicans. Doesn't this ring a bell with Mr. Trump? Okay. And when he says, what are we going to do with all these immigrants? And someone yells in the crowd, shoot them. And all the white people start laughing. They think it's a joke. Okay. And instead of Donald Trump to say that, no, you can't do that, he laughs about it and says, only in the panhandling states you can get away with that. So which means it's excusable. Donald Trump excused it. Okay. So in a state like Texas, okay, that's what they do. They just shoot them. Okay, and that's exactly what they're doing. Right. So American jobs for real Americans, code words for getting rid of Mexicans who weren't considered real Americans, said Dunn, whose staff spent 3 years delving. So again, real Americans. I mean, if anyone was real American, it would be the Native American, which most Mexicans have about 60% share, 60% ancestry with the Native Americans, or the people that were there for thousands of years, almost 20,000 years before even a European showed up on this planet, right? And mind you, the European was never, the pale skinned European never came into existence prior to about 5,000 years ago, and they never took any significant stage in history prior to 500 BC, which is just recent. It's just like yesterday in the time scale of in the scale of time, right? So I mean, real American is just absurd, right? So said Dunn, whose staff spent 3 years delving into federal, state, and local records in the United States and Mexico to document this little known tragedy of the Latino experience in the United States. The program implemented by Hoover's Secretary of Labor, William Doak, included passing local laws forbidding government employment of anyone of Mexican descent. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? So do not employ all the illegal immigrants, right? Even legal permanent residents and U.S. citizens, major companies including Ford, U.S. Steel, and Southern Pacific Railroad concluded with the government, colluded with the government by telling Mexicans they would be better off with their own people, laying off thousands. So the Hoover administration began reimbursing localities for enacting his programs. So migrant Mexican children in a camp during harvest in Nipomo, California. So yeah, this is how they used to live. It's just very sad. The Hoover administration began reimbursing localities for enacting his program. Los Angeles authorities had planned the raid at La Placita. Of course, they did plan it as a scare tactic to motivate the population to return to their motherland. And even though any of them were born in the United States, Many of them were born in the United States. Sorry, the Los Angeles City Council. I mean, who are white people to tell people to go back to their motherland? I mean, they are in their motherland. They were there before the European invaded them. That's their motherland. The Los Angeles City Council sent memos to the country's board of supervisors advising it to stop the illegal deportations. Dunn said the board got tired of the memos and wrote back to the city council. I mean, it's sad. They send so many memos and they have to get tired of it. So they were not even compelled. They're not even compelled about the plight of these people. They were only tired of the memos. I want to know exactly how many memos were sent. Anyway, so the board got tired of the memos and wrote back to the city council. This isn't about constitutional validity, it's about the color of their skin, said Dunn, who has boxes of documents detailing such events. Fear swept Mexican communities nationwide throughout the early 1930s as local law enforcement rounded up people in parks, hospitals, markets, and social clubs, crammed them into chartered trains and deposited them across the border. Around the country, Mexicans were scapegoated for the bad economy and became victims of cruel dilemmas. Does that sound like Nazi Germany? Sounds like Nazi Germany, didn't it? Said San Francisco Balderrama, professor emeritus of history and Chicano studies at California State University at Los Angeles and a co-author of Decade of Betrayal: Mexican Repatriation in the 1930s. Okay, so a book based on oral histories and archival research. In addition to claiming the Mexican deportations would create more jobs, officials also said that Mexicans were overwhelming welfare offices and draining charities set up for the needy during a time of economic calamity. Yet during the early years of depression, Mexicans comprised less than 10% of the relief recipients across the country, according to Decade of Betrayal. And the same thing, they blame African Americans for being on welfare, but when you know the majority of people on welfare are white people, right? Are white people. And it does make sense that because they are 60% of the population, they'll depend more on the government. So Hoover's approach is echoed in the Trump administration. I take that again, okay. Hoover's approach is echoed in the Trump administration's immigration policies. Okay, so I didn't say it, right? The article says it. Okay, and this is from the Washington Post. Okay, the Washington Post. Okay, the Washington Post. Okay, okay. Hoover's policies echoes Donald Trump's administration's immigration policies. So whatever was happening 100 years ago is happening again now. So bear that in mind. We are only a little bit from, witnessing another Nazi Germany, right? We're only a little bit, maybe just a little tweet from Donald Trump. Okay, I wonder if Donald Trump is calling Mexicans like invaders and that. Okay, what if he tweets now that get your guns and shoot Mexicans? Okay, when he's no longer speaking in code, when he says it real deal, okay, then you're gonna see Nazi Germany play out again. Okay, right. So there's no question in the minds of many that Trump's zero tolerance policy and increased ICE raids has strains of what occurred to Mexicans in the 1930s, Dunn said. And exactly what happened to the victims of the El Paso shooting that took place on the 3rd of August, 2019, only a couple of weeks ago. So ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Right. But the difference between the two presidents' approaches to deportation lies in Hoover's use of the term repatriation. Okay. It's bullshit. It's not repatriation. It's bullshit. Okay. Balderrama said the word suggests a voluntary return to your birthplace, but it's not. They were rounded up and taken there. And Mexican repatriation was viewed as a humanitarian gesture by the administration and the public. Dunn said, no, it's not. It's not. It's just a disguise. Okay. The fact that he did not comment on what people were doing and rounding people up just says it all, just as Donald Trump is doing. Okay. When racist white people are running around with manifestos echoing what racist agenda and echoing Donald Trump's words. Okay. He doesn't say anything, he doesn't rebuke them. He doesn't speak out against them. He says that Donald Trump says that there are good people on both sides. There are fine people on both sides. Who says that? Who in their right mind says that? This is just echoing Herbert Hoover's sentiments. It's just so scary that history is just repeating itself. It's just so scary. Okay, so be very very vigilant. Okay, be very vigilant, family. Okay, so chaotic storm. Yeah, scary stuff, family. It's really really scary. So you must be you must be very very aware. Okay, get your antennas up. Be very very aware of your situation because you could go to like your friend's house. You could go to a gathering, a community gathering, and then all you see is a white supremacist who just show up and they don't have the power now to put people on trucks, but they can just shoot you up. Okay, and it's not far-fetched. It's happening. Okay, it only happened a couple of weeks ago. Okay, don't forget it. Don't forget it. Okay, don't forget it. That's why I'm doing this. Okay, it's been 2 weeks. People have even people have moved on and focusing on other things, being distracted by the Trump's tariffs and Trump's tweets and stuff like that. But these are real things that this can affect everybody in the United States, even white women. Okay, white women, this can affect you too. Okay, this can affect you. The most dangerous person is a radicalized white supremacist male. Okay, who is a detriment to his own female, right? So I don't know if you missed that one, chaotic storm. There was this crazy guy that showed up to a hotel recently in Sydney, Australia, and held a knife to a really young, beautiful lady's throat and just cut her throat, and then went running down the street and stabbed another woman. Okay, so if these people can do this to their own women, what do you think they're going to do to people that they deem less human to them? I mean, it's really, really scary. It's really scary. Okay. Oh. But they cannot easily um, do something like that in the United States or against black people because they know black people are going to shoot back. Okay. They know black people are going to shoot back. So they're only going to go to places where they're not going to shoot back. They're not going to go to they're not going to go to the hood. Okay. They're not going to go do that with Pookie and Ray Ray. Okay. They're going to go to the church where everyone is like, oh, we give it to we give it all to God. We leave it all up to God. We leave it all up to Jesus. When they murder you. Okay. I'm gonna vent my religious rant right now that you know if you have a God that tells you that when you suffer on earth you enjoy in heaven, that's a lie. Okay, that's a false God, because once you're dead, you're dead. Enjoyment, okay, is only limited to your physical being. Once you're dead, even if there's a spirit beyond the reality, okay, this current paradigm, if you have a spirit, okay, your spirit cannot enjoy earthly desires or fleshly desires. Your spirit cannot enjoy any of those. Your spirit cannot eat. Your spirit cannot drink. Your spirit has no emotions. Okay. So don't be deceived. All right. So heaven, as I say, is on earth. Okay. Heaven is on earth. So don't be deceived. Okay. The Bible has twisted so many people's mind that it just, I woke up to it and I'm just like, every day and, day in, day out, I think about it and I see religious people as so brainwashed, so brainwashed. And when you come out of it, come out of that Bible and face reality. Okay. One principle in science is, you know, this nothing spiritual can affect the physical. Okay, it can affect it. Even though scientists are now saying that there are many dimensions, okay, in the fourth dimension or the string theory, when you use the string theory, uh, what's happening in the other world, okay, the other dimension cannot affect what's happening here. Okay, it can't. It's all completely separate. So even if you go into the fourth dimension, you are living a completely different life, completely different life. So i.e., there's no permeable membrane for a spiritual being to cross over to a physical being. It doesn't happen. If it happens, it's all in your head. Okay, it's all in your head. Okay, and that's where it happens. Okay, that's always where it happens. It's only in your head. All right. So yeah, it's up to you to keep it out of your head. Okay, keep it out of your head and focus on reality. Okay, right. So Dunn's research shows that about 1.8 million Mexicans were deported during the 1930s. Of that number, about 60% were U.S. citizens. See how scary this is? 60% of people that were deported to Mexico were actually U.S. citizens. So they're not gonna differentiate whether you are ADOS. They're not gonna differentiate whether you are African American. They're not gonna differentiate whether you're Nigerian. They're not gonna differentiate whether you're Jamaican. Once they see a black person with the same skin tone, they're gonna round you up. And as they say, white people are colorblind. Okay, white people are colorblind. They don't even see the different shades. Okay, my skin is not black. My skin is brown. Okay, but they see me, they see black. Okay, they see me, they see black. Okay, they're gonna round you up. Okay, and they're gonna send you across the border if they don't kill you first, right? So Dunn's research shows that about 1.8 million Mexicans were deported during the 1930s. Of that number, about 60% were U.S. citizens. Elena, Elena, is it Elena or Elena? Elena, I'll say Elena Herrera, an activist who has compiled oral histories of Mexicans who were deported, said her father was a toddler when he and his family were forced to go to Mexico in 1930. Herrera's aunt said the trip to Mexico was dangerous. Everybody knew Mexicans were leaving, so robberies on the roads were common, Herrera said, as was the case of many Mexicans who were coerced into leaving. The government gave the Herrera family provisions of food for 3 days, but the trip took 30 days because they couldn't drive at night. So, I mean, even here, so the Mexicans that were in government were also deported. So, here I do have another article where Trump tweeted that the uh, the senator Ilhan Omar and the other one Rashida Tlaib or whatever, how to pronounce the name, Tlaib, should be banned from going to Israel. These are government officials. I mean, how absurd can Mr. Trump get? These are government officials. Right. These are government officials. And if Trump can echo those sentiments to the point where the Prime Minister of Israel places a ban on these two women for speaking up against Israel. I mean, come on, come on. So yeah, where was I? So as was the case for many Mexicans who were coerced into leaving, the government gave Herrera family provisions of food for 3 days, but the trip took 30 days because they couldn't drive at night. They would hide their car, which was loaded with possessions, after sunset to avoid being robbed. For children, most of whom were born in the United States, the trip and relocation to Mexico was especially traumatizing. I can imagine that. As you see videos of the crying kids, you know, kids being separated from their families, it is traumatizing. Leaving the only country they had known to go to an unfamiliar, rural, and poor place where no one spoke English left a mark on Christine Valenciano's mother, Emilia Castaneda. Valenciana, associate professor emeritus at California State University at Fullerton, said her mother wasn't used to not having indoor plumbing, was ostracized at school in Mexico for not speaking Spanish, and suffered from a lack of medical and dental care. So, some Trump's biggest supporters were also Latino. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So a whole lot of people support their own oppression. So yeah, there we have it. A whole lot of people support their own oppression. So yeah, as some black people actually, when they were freed, sold themselves back into slavery so they could get food to eat, which is very sad, right? My mother, my mother never got a proper education. Um, my mother never got a proper education. Valenciana um, said she lived in Mexico for 9 miserable years. Finally, when Emilia turned 17, her godmother found her birth certificate, which was needed to re-enter the United States, and sent her money to return. Emilia had always considered Los Angeles her home and was anxious to go back, but she wasn't able to resume her schooling because her English had faded over the years. Hmm, sounds like me when I used to speak French back in the day. Yeah. With so many Mexicans and Mexican Americans forced to leave the country, there were no voices at the time protesting this mass removal, which means everyone was on board with it. So if something's happening, you don't speak up against it, you are in support of it. Okay, you are in support of it. As in Donald Trump not speaking up against white supremacy until now, okay, he was in favor of it when he could say that there are good people on both sides. There are there are fine people. There are fine people on both sides. Okay, that's what Donald Trump would say. So trade unions and other groups were all in favor of saving jobs for whites in the United States. Okay. So the famous Mexican artist Diego Rivera, oh, I know this guy, Diego Rivera, uh, who was in the United States painting his Detroit industry frescoes during the 1930s, helped raise money for deportees and worked to obtain humane treatment for compatriots from welfare authorities, according to a decade of betrayal. But like many, he was sold on the idea that repatriation was a positive action instead of a violent disruption with lifelong effects. At least today we can say things have gotten better in terms of opposition to immigration policies, Balderrama said. But I can see us slipping down the same path with Trump's approach, said Dunn. Democracy is fragile. Okay. The deportations continued well into the 1930s, even after Democrat Franklin D. Roosevelt took office in January 1933. Roosevelt never officially revoked American Jobs for Real Americans campaign, but by 1933 it was being carried out solely by local government that acted on their own, and his administration did nothing to stop them. So doesn't this sound like Donald Trump? Okay, doesn't this sound like Donald Trump? It just faded away by the end of 2000, by the end of 1930s, by the end of the 1930s, and then World War II brought jobs back. So the scapegoating of Mexicans eased up, Dunn said. So it was only that they needed Mexicans again. That's why they needed Mexicans to go fight their wars. That was when they even embraced African Americans because they needed them to go fight their wars in Europe. But right after coming back from World War II, they were lynching them and they were ostracized. So in 2005, Dunn put forward legislation in the California State House to apologize for the government's treatment of Mexicans during the Depression. The Apology Act became official on January 1st, 2006, expressing regret for the illegal deportations. The law also included installing a memorial where the raid on La Placita took place in Los Angeles. In 2013, California also passed a law requiring that this lost history be taught in the state's public schools. Can African Americans also push this into law, where white America admits to slavery and the torture and the free labor and exploitation of my ancestors in the United States? Okay. Can African Americans also push this law? This is what Latinos are able to do. They push the agenda. How come African Americans can't do that? How come African Americans can't come together and push their agenda as well? Because we need to force these people to know history. They seem to have forgotten. They seem to have forgotten what their ancestors did, to the point where Mitch McConnell is saying that he's not responsible for what happened 150 years ago. But God damn it, he is benefiting from his grandfather's wealth. His grandfather was a slave owner. He's benefiting. The wealth was passed down to him, and he's still saying he's not responsible. No wonder he's in close ranks with Mr. Trump. They're all the same. Okay, they all on code, same racist code. Yeah. So yeah, we all know about the internment of 145,000 Japanese during World War II. Dunn said, but 1.8 million Mexican deportees dwarfs that size. How about 500 million Africans that were shipped to the Americas? 500 million, and two-thirds perished in the Atlantic Ocean. Two-thirds. Only about 120 million people, Africans, made it to the Americas. Two-thirds perished. Over 300 million people perished in the Atlantic Ocean. Okay. Where is our apology? Okay. Where is our reparation? Where is our plaque? Okay. We're still waiting. We're still waiting. It's 2019. Okay. It's 20th of August, 1619. Okay. It's going to officially commemorate the first African American that were brought. I mean, Africans that were brought to Jamestown, Virginia. Okay. On the slave ship called what was this? The White Lion. Okay. 12 slaves were captured. Okay. And sent to Jamestown, the place that's going to be is now Jamestown, Virginia. Okay. Where is our apology? And mind you, before that, the Spanish were already taking Africans to the Spanish colonies like Florida and South Carolina or North Carolina. So yeah. And my ancestry, I trace my ancestry to Virginia, and I come from a long line of Americans, you know. before they even set eyes on black Africans, they were invading, they were taking the Moors and Moroccans, okay, Mauritanians. They were already taking them to the Americas. Those were the Spanish that were doing that, okay, and my ancestors happened to be caught up in that, okay. So yeah, Dunn says the Apology Act was mostly symbolic, but it is still something. He said, now no one can say it never happened. So yeah, this post has been updated to reflect the role of President Franklin D. Roosevelt administration in the deportations. Okay, that's done. So there's another article here, the story of Donald Trump's grandfather who came to the United States as an unaccompanied minor. Right. So that's Donald Trump's grandfather. So Donald Trump's grandfather is an immigrant as well. I think they came in the early 1900s. So let's have a look. So 1885. 1885 was when Donald Trump's grandfather came to the Americas, right? Elizabeth Trump. Okay. So October 17th, 1885. Yeah, that's from Germany. Okay. Hundreds of would-be Americans from Germany. Yeah. And Germans make up a bulk majority of Europeans in the Americas. So yeah, and my grandfather was part German, so German American. So yeah, I mean, when you talk about a place like Virginia, which is like mostly people of German origin, that's what you're gonna have. Anyway, so that's another article for another day. But yeah, you can go read it. Okay, when Donald Trump's family came, 17th of October, 1885. Okay. So yeah, I do not know. So yeah, I'm gonna share my screen again. How are you guys going? Chaotic Storm, how's it going? You know, some of the Trump's biggest supporters were also Latinos. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I already spoke about that. How we fuel our own oppression, right? We support our own oppression. Okay, but the things we do and the things we don't do are our indifference, our inactiveness in participation of politics. Okay, if I live in a country like the United States where politics actually affects my everyday way of life, okay, I need to be actively, involved in the politics. Okay, and always only vote for people that push my agenda. Okay, and that's what African Americans need to do. All right, so I'm gonna share my last article and I'll be out of here. Okay, it's Friday. It's 6:55 p.m. and I will be out of here. Actually, I forgot to share my stream with my group, so I'll take a little break here, family, and I'll invite my guys to join from my WhatsApp group. Yeah. So yeah, bear with me, family. If you come into the stream, please subscribe, like the stream, and share it. Okay. Ring the bell for notifications. Okay. Uh, oh, blah, blah. So yeah. Chief Drano is live. Family, please join me to support. All right, so this is very, very significant because this involves direct Africans, as Ilhan Omar is a Somali immigrant in the United States. Uh, this speaks volume, okay, to any. This speaks volume to any African American, okay, or anyone of African descent in America that Trump could call a ban on you in any other country. So yeah, and they will literally do that. Okay, they will literally do that without hesitation. Okay, uh, let's join my live stream. Right. So yeah, if you're coming in, please like the stream. Okay, like the stream. Okay, share with friends and family. Yeah. Yeah, just catching my breath a bit. Okay, just having a little break. One last article, and I'll be out of here. But I'm trying to invite some friends from my WhatsApp group who are mostly Africans, and this is gonna affect them. Okay, this is gonna affect them. Okay, cool. So yeah, chaotic storm sounds like the typical American story. Unfortunately, that's right. So it says 1.2 million Mexicans. People underestimate the combined power of united people. They swept that under the rug. Okay, yeah. Seriously, I'm missing some of your comments, but yeah, I'm seeing it now. I'm seeing them now on my StreamYard page. So I'm just catching up on some of your comments, Chaotic Storm. Okay, so I'm on to the last segment of this stream. Okay, Trump must go part two. And in my previous one, I outlined reasons why Trump needs to go because of basically his, incompetence. Okay, he doesn't exhibit the moral standard of a president, i.e., when you had a great president like Barack Obama. Okay, Trump is just a joke, right? Trump inherited a great economy from Barack Obama, and whilst I mean all the policies that were put in place by Barack Obama, okay, Trump has reversed all of them. Okay, Obama put in the affordable health care for all Americans. Trump reversed it and demonized it and called it the Obamacare. Okay, it's not really the Obamacare. It's called I think the Affordable Health Care. You know, and they demonized it and called it Obamacare. I mean, you can't have that. You can't have a president like that who goes about reversing everything the former president did. Okay, when the former president did a great job, and now the country is entering recession, and guess what? It's going to drag everyone with it. It's going to drag us all into it. Okay, even me in Australia, somewhere far away, thousands of kilometers away. Okay, I am going to be affected. Right, I am going to be affected by what's happening in the United States. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go into the final segment. Okay, this is a short read. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again, and so I hope you can see this. I hope you can see this. Okay. Let me see if I can share this with share. All right, so Israel bars Democratic Congresswoman from entering. Women, yeah, sorry. Israel bars Democratic Congresswomen from entering country. Okay, this is CNN politics. So this is her name. What's her name? What's her name now? Forgot her name. Anyway, it will come back to me. I'll just read the article. And I know this one, Ilhan Omar. Okay, who is Somali, someone of Somali descent. Okay, and there's this president, Prime Minister Netanyahu, who wants to be part of the African Union. By the way, well, mind you, how can you deport someone from Africa? Like Israel is in Africa. How can you deport an African from Africa? I mean, it's hypocrisy at this point when Israel says it's the only democratic country in the Middle East, and you deporting your own citizens. Okay, and yet you want a place in the African Union. I mean, these people are racist to the core. They're just racist to the core. Okay, and there's no going back for these people. You can't. These people can't change. They're gonna die being racist. Okay, they think they will live forever, but they won't live forever. All right. So CNN, Israel announced Thursday, okay, today, okay, the 16th of August 2019, it was barring the entry of two Democratic U.S. Congresswomen after Donald Trump encouraged the move. The remarkable step both by a remarkable step both by the U.S. President and his ally, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, to punish political opponents. Deputy Foreign Minister CP Hotovely told CNN on Thursday of Israel's decision to ban Republicans or reps Rashida Tlaib, okay, so that's her name, Rashida Tlaib of Michigan and Ilhan Omar of Minnesota from entering the country. The announcement came shortly after Trump said Israel would be showing great weakness by allowing them to enter the country. So Trump tweeted that. So Trump said that in a tweet. So it's really sad that Trump's tweets can even cause, ripple effects all the way to Israel. And these Israeli presidents act on them. You know how Trump feels. He feels that every other president of the United States has neglected Israel, but Trump said he's the best friend of Israel. So they're just gonna, when Trump says jump, Netanyahu is gonna say how high. It's gonna say how high. Okay. Deputy Foreign Minister, I read that. So the announcement came shortly after Trump said Israel would be showing great weakness by allowing them to enter the country. The plan of the two congresswomen is only to damage Israel and to foment against Israel, Netanyahu said in a statement following the decision. Right. The intervention by Trump into Israel's decision making was extraordinary enough, but the move by Netanyahu's government lent the long-standing U.S.-Israel alliance a new partisan, what's the word? Partisanage. And sorry, I can't pronounce that there. And opened the door for fresh criticism. Okay. Omar responded to the decision Thursday by calling it an affront and an insulting to democratic values. Of course it is. So in a country like the United States where you have freedom of speech, and basically they speak in truth, really. They speak in truth. of exactly what Israel is doing. Israel is an oppressive state, somewhat like an apartheid state. Okay. So Omar responded to the decision Thursday by calling it an affront and insulting democratic values. It is an affront, and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, under pressure from President Trump, would deny entry to representatives of the US government. Omar said in a statement, Trump's Muslim ban is what Israel is implementing, this time against two duly elected members of Congress. So Trump doesn't even respect his own government. So related article, Rashida Taleb, I'm not going nowhere, not until I impeach this president. Okay. I hope you can do that soon. Omar went on to say, as a member of the House Committee on Foreign Affairs, it is my job to conduct oversight of foreign aid from the United States of America and to legislate on human rights practices around the world. The irony of the only democracy in the Middle East making such a decision is that it is both an insult to democratic values and a chilling response to a visit by government officials from an allied nation. So it's totally absurd, right? Totally absurd. So I mean, the US gives Israel like $2 billion a year in aid. So yeah, I mean, if Trump says jump, Netanyahu is going to say how high, mate. So yeah, Chaotic Storm, I always thought Israel had no influence on the US. Oh, they do, family. They do. I mean, Israel is basically a military base for the US. Okay. Israel is only an extension of the United States, empire, if only it is. Okay. It's a military base for the US. So yeah. That's why the U.S. is heavily invested in Israel. So yeah. In considering the ban, Israel cited the Congresswomen's support for a boycott against Israel, and the boycott against Israel is only because of the treatment of the Palestinians. Okay. So the state of Israel respects the American Congress in the framework of close alliance between the two countries, but it is unthinkable that an entry to Israel would be allowed to those who seek to damage the state of Israel, even during a visit, said Interior Minister Aryeh Deri in a statement. Under Israeli law, the Interior Minister is the one authorized to make a decision on barring entry. Yeah, I mean, this is BS, right? We know how racist Israel is anyway, so we already know. And I don't know why black people keep going there. You shouldn't go there, right? Derry said he made decision. So that's basically what Ilhan Omar was saying. Boycott Israel. Don't go to Israel, right? Derry said he made the decision with support of Netanyahu and other Israeli officials. U.S. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman said the U.S. supports and respects Israel's decision to deny entry to Taleb and Omar. So yeah, another Trump supporter there. So U.S. Ambassador to Israel. And the former U.S. ambassador to Israel said it was absurd. So I listened to it. Commentary there. This trip, pure and simple, is nothing more than an effort to fuel boycott movement, engine that Congresswoman Taleb and Omar so vigorously support. Friedman said in a statement released Thursday evening. Slamming the boycott movement is economic warfare designed to delegitimize and ultimately destroy the Jewish state. Nobody wants to destroy the Jewish state. They just wanted to treat Palestinians freely. I mean, fairly. So Friedman, how do you pronounce that? Friedman, because it's like Friedman, but yeah. Defended Israel's right to deny entry to those who support a boycott of the country. Israel's decision to deny entry to the two freshman Congresswomen amounted to a reversal of a position taken last month when Israeli ambassador to the United States, Ron Dermer, said the two would be allowed to visit Israel and the Palestinian territories. Out of respect for the US Congress and the great alliance between Israel and America, or the US, not America, we would not deny entry to any member of Congress into Israel, Dermer said at the time in widely reported comments. Dermer is considered one of those closest to Netanyahu. So Democratic outrage. The move was met with a swift backlash from Democratic congressional lawmakers, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi of California, who said in a statement she was deeply saddened by the news. Israel's denial of entry to Congresswomen Tlaib and Omar is a sign of weakness and beneath the dignity of the great state of Israel. So Pelosi said, the president's statements about the Congresswomen are a sign of ignorance and disrespect and beneath the dignity of the office of the president. And you know, Nancy Pelosi is someone that you say is woke. She is the Speaker of the House of the Congress, and she recently took a trip to Ghana as well to mark the year of return as well. You know, she visited the slave dungeons and the castles and saw what our ancestors went through. So yeah. The president's statements about the Congresswomen are a sign of ignorance and disrespect, and beneath the dignity of the office of the president. So everybody looks down on Donald Trump at this point. So in a statement, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, a New York Democrat, called the decision a sign of weakness, not strength, and said it will only hurt the U.S.-Israeli relationship and support for Israel in the U.S. I hate using the word America. Many strong supporters of Israel will be deeply disappointed in this decision, which the Israeli government should reverse. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer of Maryland and the number 2 House Democrat in the statement called the decision outrageous and said the move is contrary to the statement and assurances to me by Israel's ambassador to the United States that out of the respect for the US Congress and great alliance between Israel and the United States, we would not deny entry to any member of Congress into Israel. That representation was not true. Hoyer has been working since Wednesday to persuade the Israeli government to permit the 2 Congresswomen entry and aid to Hoyer told CNN. That effort included speaking directly with Netanyahu and Ambassador Dermer on Wednesday. Hoyer had also previously worked on the ambassador to secure the statement that no member would be denied entry. Okay, so this article goes on and on. Okay, it's nearly finished. On Wednesday, the Israeli Prime Minister, Interior Minister, Foreign Minister, Minister of Internal Security, the head of the National Security Council, and the Attorney General all met to discuss a final decision on the issue of the Congresswoman's visit, the source said, which had been scheduled to take place from August 18th to 22nd. Tlaib and Omar plan to visit one of the holiest and most sensitive cities or sites in Jerusalem, known to Muslims as Haman al-Sharif and to Jews as the Temple Mount. The 2 lawmakers refused to be escorted by Israeli security while visiting the site, as they believe Muslims have a right to pray there. Organizers in Israel and America and the US told CNN. A Democratic congressional aide with knowledge of the trip disputed that account, saying that the Congresswomen had not refused Israeli security on a planned visit to the holy site. The aide also said Omar had planned to meet with former US Ambassador to Israel, Dan Shapiro, and members of Israel's Knesset, though the aid did not specify which members. The two Congresswomen also planned to meet with Israeli and Palestinian peace activists and representatives of human rights organizations. They were to visit Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Ramallah, and Hebron. There were no plans to meet officials, organizers said. Tlaib planned to stay 2 extra days to visit her grandmother, who lives in the West Bank village of Beit al-Tata. So Tlaib's mother lives in Israel. This is absurd, right? So you cannot visit your own mother. If Tlaib, who is the first Palestinian American woman to serve in Congress, made a humanitarian request to visit her family in the West Bank, that would be allowed, the government officially said. But that decision would be separate from the decision to bar them from entering Israel. I thought West Bank was part of Israel. Anyway, former mayor of Jerusalem, Nir Barkat, who is a member of Netanyahu's Likud party, said he would welcome the two Congresswomen into the country, but only if they would listen and learn. If I would be convinced that they come to listen and learn in how this country works, how Jerusalem works, how our political system works, Barkat told Israeli news channel I-24 News on Tuesday, I would consider it. Convincing people that Israel's path is the right path, is a high road I think we should take. So yeah. So this story is from CNN. All right. So that concludes my episode on current affairs and my reason why I feel like Mr. Trump should be impeached, because he is fueling the division, okay, in the world we have today. Okay. Thanks for joining the stream. Anyone who's here, who's not been here before, please like the stream. Okay, like it, and yeah, share with your friends and family. Okay. What's happening? Okay, like I said before. Okay, history is only repeating itself. I've already read to you history, what happened in the 1930s. Okay, under this president called Herbert Clark Hoover. Okay, who allowed blatant racism to occur under his nose without he even saying anything about it. Okay. And even subsequent president coming in, Roosevelt, also didn't say anything about it. So they don't say anything about it in their indifference. Okay, they fuel racism. They cause racism to fester. Okay. So yeah, nothing has changed. Okay, fast forward almost 100 years. Okay, nothing has changed, and believe it or not, okay, the next 10 years is going to be very, very critical. Okay, because history is going to repeat itself. The next 10 years, marking 100 years since these events. Okay, the Great Depression of the 1930s. Okay, the next 10 years. Okay, 2030 is going to be 100 years, and every 100 years, okay, the cycle goes on. The cycle continues. Okay, every 100 years, there's a cycle. Okay, so whatever was happening 100 years ago will happen again. All right, so you have to be very, very, very careful. If you're African American and you do not have an African plan, okay, this is the time you make your plan, because you only have a 10-year window. As the Ghanaian officials said, you only have 10 years window to secure your spot in Africa. Okay, secure your passport and be ready to move when shit hits the fan. Because another term of Donald Trump is going to send the world into a downward spiral that we cannot get or we cannot recover from. all right, if we're not very careful. So yeah, the West Bank is a part of Israel, the Jewish side that's divided. Okay, okay, I see. So there's a wall, isn't it? There's a wall across the West Bank. Okay, so that's the Palestinian side, and which is more close to Egypt, isn't it? Okay, thanks for that information, family. Yeah, so yeah, everything that happened in the 1930s, the words of Herbert Hoover, okay, is echoed by Donald Trump. Okay, Hoover said, "American jobs for real Americans." Real Americans. Who are real Americans? There's no other real American than the Mexican, who is 60% Native American. And then take it further. There's no real American who is, you know, no other than African American, because they're African, the original people of this planet. See, so yeah, I mean the rhetoric continues, okay, with Mr. Trump and the lies, okay, the lies of Mr. Trump, okay, is beyond me, okay, I can see through the lies and it's beyond me. All right, so you would be one very individual, one very dangerous individual if you believe the words that Donald Trump spews. Okay, so who is a very dangerous individual. Okay, and we've seen Netanyahu's policies. Okay, we've seen it. So yeah, birds of the same feathers, okay, flock together. So we know that. All right. So yeah, if you made it this far, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, like the stream, okay, share with friends and family, and yeah, in Trump's indifference, okay, it's helping Africa. Africa is rising. Okay, I mean they've got to a point where they can't. It's not reversible anymore. Okay, the rise of Africa is not reversible. It's Africa is going to keep on rising. Okay, and the downfall of the Western countries is imminent. Okay, they cannot reverse it. Okay, so yeah. All right, family. Have yourself an African plan. Okay, Pan Africanism. Okay, global unification of everyone of African descent. Okay, Ubuntu. Okay, see the brother in your fellow African brother. Okay, Africa is on the rise. Okay, all props to the African Union, and you know, we encourage African Union's approach in uniting the continent of Africa and everything they're doing. Okay. All right. So until next time, family, peace and love and African supremacy. Okay. Boom. Boom. All right. So Chaotic Storm, thanks for joining the stream. Neymar, if you're still here, thanks. Fafa, is that my cousin Fafa? Thanks for joining the stream. B1 for life. Okay. I hope you can catch on that. Nerlana Hesanova, thanks for joining the stream, sister, from Azerbaijan. Julie G, okay, I hope you caught on to this stream. Okay. All right, family. Until next time, peace. Peace.